you have no evidence that supports that you are going to become this person who is confident in being single, doesn't think about their ex, doesn't get upset when they see photos or see pictures or hear things about their ex. You've got no evidence to support that new person, so how could you possibly believe that you are going to become that person? You can't. And that is what I mean about you collecting evidence. You are collecting evidence that goes against everything that you are trying to become. Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Up the Air with myself, Lou. Hope we're all okay. I'm recording at 7:30 in the morning. I need to tell you what has happened this morning, because this morning has been literal chaos, and it is only 7:30. And I think sometimes when I tell stories on this podcast, people are like, how does that happen? Sorry, I'm just going to adjust my mic so it's square. So my neighbours, they put bread out onto the top of their shed, which is great. Feed the birds. I'm all for it. However, I live at the back of my garden. There is like a kind of like a nature reserve thing. Don't really know what it is. Anyway, there's just loads of big fat trees there. And then there's the school. So the trees block out the view of the school. So like the school's there, but you can't see it. But because of the school and because of all the bins, I'm told that is why there are seagulls. Now, I live in the most middle part of the UK. Like, you couldn't get any more central to the UK, the furthest away from any beaches. This morning at like 4 a.m, I would have swore blind I was at a beach. There was so many seagulls. Not only that, they were yelling, like literally yelling about this bread. Honestly, they were going mental. I had all my windows open because the weather's warm at the moment, and it is warm in here at the moment. It is 18 degrees and clear, apparently, according to my laptop. I am not joking. It was like they were having some form of shouting match. I thought they were going to come through the window. I thought they were sat outside my window. So that was a nice wake-up call at 4 o'clock. I shut the window, shut the curtains, went back to sleep, woke up at my alarm, got ready, started recording, and the school alarm, I had the back of the house, the windows open, because to get some air in so I don't melt. The school alarm's going off. Just going off. Really loud, really shrill, going off. I sat down to record, and the cat that is now been let out, which is like where my house is, it's like the house next to it, but across the road from me a bit. They've got a tomcat. There's a ginger tomcat that is also on our street. They were just scrapping, just having a cat fight. So hopefully, fingers crossed now, there's not going to be any distractions and I can actually get on with recording today's episode, because sometimes I do think people are like, oh, she says she's chaos. She's a chaos queen. Not really, but is she? Yes, I am chaos. My life is chaos. There is always freaking something that is going on. Always something. I'm also absolutely starving, which is not ideal. Anyway, I usually start these episodes with a big fat catch up. However, I have recently had a lot of new followers. So, and I don't think I say this enough. And when I look at my analytics, I see that like my subscribers are going up, but I know that there are more of you out there that don't subscribe to my podcast. So I'm really sorry. I'm just going to plug everything that I do, because I also know that people listen to the first podcast that they pick up, and it will always be the most recent podcast. So if you've been here for a while, I'm really sorry. You may just want to skip forward to I know you can skip on Spotify through this just while I chat about what I do, not what I do, but where you can find me and what I need from you guys. So basically, I need you to subscribe to my YouTube, to my Spotify, to Apple Podcasts. I am trying to get my podcast, I want to say, commissioned in a way. I'm trying to get the attention of some podcast creators, basically, to help me now with this podcast. So if you listen to this and you just have me saved, because I do it all the time myself, in your Spotify searches, please can you click on my Spotify and please can you subscribe? It makes such a difference to me. It makes a whole world of difference to everything that I can do, everything that I can achieve. And I have basically seen a couple of podcast groups that you need a certain amount of subscribers, and I am getting there and I am growing and I have regular listeners and I can see all of that. I just need you to subscribe. Same as YouTube. Even if you do not watch these and you listen to them, please can you go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is very unlike me. I very, very, very rarely ask anything from you. I just need a little bit of help at the moment with getting my numbers up a little bit. Same as if you found me via TikTok or Instagram, can you go and follow me on Instagram and TikTok? That would be grand. This social media thing is a numbers game. And basically I need to make sure that I have the numbers to be able to present them in front of a couple of companies that I have been chatting to. So that is what I need you to do for me. And in return, I give you thousands of hours of free podcast content. I also provide you with an additional amount of content on my Patreon. That is not free, but it is also only £5 a month, which is the equivalent price to the coffee that you have either bought or you're planning on buying today, or I don't even think it would cover a iced latte, matcha, toffee, no sugar syrup, raspberry, whatever the combos are that you coffee queens order. I'm not a coffee girl. I have a huge intolerance to caffeine. Haven't been a coffee girl for around 14, 15, probably about, I would say about 14 years now, 15 years. They're probably longer than that actually, probably like 15, 16 years. But I know they're not cheap. I see my sisters order them. So my additional content, which is where you find me talking about being cheated on, where you find me talk about affairs, where you talk about me talking about money splits, anything really super personal that I would want to keep a little bit more personal, anything like that, you will find on my Patreon. So the links for that can be found in the description of every single one of my episodes. It can also be found in the link on my bio in my Instagram. You basically just get directed to my Stan store and you can sign up from there. You can also drop me a DM if you're struggling to find any of these links and I will send them straight to your inbox. So that is what I can give you in return, as well as my 30-day no contact reset guide. Now, this has had a lot of interest in the last couple of days and I am going to just tell you what it is and what it isn't. It is over 30 pages long. It is something that you need to do every single day. It is something that you can take your time with doing. If you do week 1 and you feel like, okay, I've got into the rhythm of things now, you can do week 1 again. If you then want to move on to week 2 and do week 2 4 times, you can do week 2 4 times. The way that it works is that there are tasks every single day that you can do. There are mindset shifts, there are journal prompts, there are like pieces of homework to do at the end of each week. It is not something that you're just going to pick up and then miraculously stop contacting your ex. It is something that you are going to have to actually implement, follow, read. There's lots of reading in it, lots of psychology behind why you want to contact your ex, lots of mindset shifts about when you get stuck in a thought loop. No contact is really, really hard, and this guide will guide you through 30 days. I am not promising that after 30 days you will want to stop contacting your ex immediately, but it will give you the tools and it will give you the confidence to know that you are going to be able to get through a further 30 days. It also features a first aid kit. Now I call it the first aid kit because sometimes you will want to contact your ex. I try and encourage you not to, but I also do not make you feel guilty if you do. I have a first aid kit and it's what to do if you have reached out. Not at any point does this guide make you start from day 1. That is not that type of guide. The reason why I created the guide is because I picked up a lot of guides. I picked up a lot of guides that were free. I picked up a lot of guides that were like £40. I picked up a guide that was like £7. I picked up a lot of guides when I was in no contact because I wanted to be able to have the support through no contact. And every single guide I picked up told me to start from day one, and basically it made me feel like a failure with no contact. It is hard. No contact is hard. And I've created this guide to make sure that you feel supported, and not just supported for a week. It's a full guide. Like I said, it's over 30 pages long. Something that you can even really get your teeth into. You can even buy it, read it, and not start it straight away if you're not there yet. It gets you used to the concepts of not contacting your ex, what to do instead, why your mind is reverting back. It gets you journaling. It gets you used to journaling, because journaling is hard. I say this all the time. So that is what I can offer you in return, plus my YouTube. I mean, if you like having company, you can obviously switch this on to your TV in the morning, in the evening, at the weekend. My whole philosophy around creating content was to put out as much free content as I possibly could. And I do that every day with my reels, my Instagram posts, my TikToks, and my podcast. I give out free advice all the time, and I have had a little bit of like backlash about charging for my guides. If you are struggling really badly and cannot afford to purchase one of the guides or sign up to my Patreon, I think I've put enough free content out into the world for you to benefit from at least one of my platforms. So I hope that I've built enough trust up over the years and throughout the whole of my podcast for you to trust and know that when I am charging for content, it's because you are benefiting from the content and you are going to benefit from the content. It's not just going to be another guide that someone has written a couple of paragraphs on and then gone, yeah, I'm going to sell that for a tenner. A lot of hard work went into the guide. I refreshed it about 3 weeks ago. I changed the name. If you already have got the guide, I changed the name because of basically optimizing it to be searched better. You can make your stand store public now. So I am getting a few leads from like just having my stand store public. So I had to change the name. I changed a few of the details in it and just the welcome and the closing, and that was it. Everything else is the same. So if you have already purchased the guide, thank you. And just know that you don't need to purchase it again. Everything is pretty much the same. So yeah, I just wanted to spend the first 10 minutes just telling you where you can get help, what I can help with, how I can help, where you can find it, what you have to pay for, what is free, and so you can continue getting the support you need through your breakup. Today, this episode is called If Nothing Changes, Nothing Changes, following a breakup. Now, it's probably the most obvious statement in the world, and you're probably thinking, what on earth is she talking about? So I'm going to deep dive into this episode. I've been very excited about this episode. I've done lots of reading, lots of research, and the final thing I want to plug is my rebuild. I don't know whether it's going to be called a masterclass, a course, a guide. I don't know. It's going to be more than a guide because there's going to be videos and stuff in that. I'm not sure. Maybe it'll be a masterclass or masterclasses. I am building something huge. I am building something that I haven't spent a lot of time talking about. It has been completely planned. The reason why I haven't spoken really about the big rebuild that comes after your life is because I know there are going to be so many people that are so worried about it. I needed to also be in a position where I could talk from experience, and now I'm hurtling towards my 5th year of being single. Next February it will be 5 years since my ex walked out on me. I wanted to be able to get some solid years of experience of being single, rebuilding my life after my breakup. I didn't want to be a creator that like went through a breakup and then was like, oh, miraculously this is what you do in 6 weeks. I didn't want to do that. I wanted the rebuild to be a solid piece of content that people are going to buy and purchase and invest in, and know that they are going to get solid advice. It is full, and I mean full, of advice. And it is a workshop, maybe I'll call it a workshop, of videos that you can work through that will basically completely transform your mindset about rebuilding your life. Because when you go through a breakup, you tell yourself that your life is over, and it just isn't true. So I am going to start talking on a few of the concepts that will show up in that course, so you can kind of get a feel as to whether, I don't want to call it a course. I don't want to call it a course, but I've just called it a course, but I don't want to call it a course. That it's going to show up in that the thing that I am designing. I do like masterclass, so maybe it'll be masterclass. It's going to show up in the masterclass, and I want you to get used to a couple of the concepts that I'm talking about, so then you know whether this course, this masterclass, is going to help you. That's the final thing that I'm going to plug, I promise. But I want to keep talking about it because I want to create momentum around it. I want you to be aware that it is coming out. I want you to be aware that it is being built, and I want you to know that there is something big coming. Anyway, today, I'm going to talk about something that it sounds like the most obvious thing in the world, but it might not be super, super obvious to you. But when my therapist said it to me, I was like, that is the most obvious thing in the world. Why has she just said that? And then it blew my mind. And that is the concept of, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And you might be thinking, she has lost the plot. What on earth is she talking about? So I'm going to tell you. Change is really hard. Changing is really hard. Change in your life is really hard. Going through changes is really hard, and I know it can be super, super daunting. And so this might make you feel uncomfortable, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I remember sitting in a therapy session, and I remember my therapist saying this to me, and me being like, what are you talking about? I'm trying my best. And she was like, yep, you are trying your best. But for the last 4 weeks, nothing's changed. So nothing's going to change. And she didn't mean my ex coming back. She didn't mean my life getting miraculously better, something coming into my life and me being like, oh my God, this is a huge change. She didn't mean me just waking up one morning and being like, hey, do you know what? I'm totally over my ex now. I don't think about him anymore. It's amazing. She didn't mean any of that. She meant me. She meant what I do. And I do a whole episode about changing and how people say, oh, they've changed, and it being a negative connotation. So if you have listened to that episode, I don't know whether it's on my Patreon or whether it's on my Spotify, I can't remember, but I have done a whole episode on when someone says, oh God, she's changed, he's changed. It can carry negative connotations. But what I mean here is being able to say that you have implemented things that have changed your outlook, changed your mindset, changed certain things, so you know that you can move forward with your life. And this is why I want to talk about this, because this is a huge part of rebuilding your life and moving forward. And what I also need you to think about whilst thinking about this concept is, we spend, and you will spend, so much time waiting for your feelings to change. So much time. You will wake up most mornings and be like, well, how do I feel today? And you're constantly assessing and analysing your feelings, and you're constantly thinking like, okay, this morning, how do I feel? And what you don't realise is that you feel the same because nothing changes. You are still continuing to live a life that reinforces your feelings for your ex. And this is why this is so important when you are rebuilding. You might have listened to the first couple of minutes of this podcast where I've actually started talking about what I want to talk about. You may have listened to this and thought, I'm not ready to hear this yet. I'm still grieving. That is totally fine. You can pick up this episode whenever you need to pick it up. But you cannot expect your feelings to change if you are still living a life that reinforces those feelings. So what I mean by that is, you are waking up and thinking about your ex. You are watching what they're doing. You are checking what they're doing. You are rereading old messages. You are going through old photos. You might still be talking about them like you are in a relationship. I did that a lot. Like, I did that a lot. And I think because I kept my breakup a secret for such a long time, I think that reinforced those feelings, because I was like still talking to people about him being my boyfriend. You tell yourself that you're still behind. You tell yourself that you're never going to get over it because it has been a year or 2 years and you are still struggling to move forward into the new chapter of your life. Now, I don't want you to think that this episode is going to be a total bombardment of blame. It's not. This is not about blaming yourself. This is not about blaming how you feel. It's realizing that your breakthrough isn't just going to be one big fat life event where you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my God, I'm so over this situation, it's amazing. It's created by tiny, tiny little moments, by you believing that you are somebody who heals from this breakup, that you are somebody that can wake up in the morning and think, do you know what? I'm actually moving forward with my life now. That is what this whole concept is about. So I'm going to talk to you about that. And hopefully at the end of this podcast episode, you will be excited about these new things that I'm going to talk to you about. And you'll be excited about me talking more about this in my Rebuild Masterclass. Still testing it out. Not sure whether that fits. Anyway, without further ado, guys, let's go. So I'm going to start off by talking about something that I've spoken to you guys about before. I talk about it a lot on my Patreon, is the evidence collecting. You are, without realizing, collecting evidence that goes against the person that you want to become. You ultimately want to become this person that is over their ex, that is moved forward with their lives, and that they have totally transformed how their mindset, or what their mindset is about, how they feel. You are trying to become this person who is a confident single person. However, you are, without knowing, collecting evidence that goes against that person that you are trying to become. And what you are doing without actually realizing is becoming a detective on yourself. So think about what your brain notices. Think about what your brain notices. It notices everything you don't want to be doing. You don't want to be waking up crying about them. You don't want to be waking up thinking about them. You don't want to be waking up checking your phone. You don't want to be thinking, I still miss them. I can enjoy the party I went to because it was full of couples. I can't go to that wedding because it's full of couples. I'm really struggling with being single. That is all evidence that is going to back up the thought process of, I am never going to get over this, because your brain is noticing the thoughts of, I still miss them, I still think about them. And eventually it stops feeling like a thought and it feels like a matter of fact. And so you are telling yourself that you aren't going to be able to get over this breakup because of the things that you are doing, because your brain has noticed the thoughts that you don't want and that you can't get rid of. So you're trying to become a person, but what you're doing is evidencing a person that is still stuck on their heartbreak, still stuck in their breakup, still thinking about their ex. It's stuck there. So that person that you're trying to become, and the big fat butterfly that you are going to eventually become, feels miles away, because you've been so good at telling yourself that you aren't going to get over it, because you still think about them, because you still cry about them, because you still wish that they contacted you. You have no evidence that supports that you are going to become this person who is confident in being single, doesn't think about their ex, doesn't get upset when they see photos or see pictures or hear things about their ex. You've got no evidence to support that new person. So how could you possibly believe that you are going to become that person? You can't. And that is what I mean about you collecting evidence. You are collecting evidence that goes against everything that you are trying to become. And part of it comes from the story that you are feeding. And the best way I can describe this is, imagine two people. Imagine you and somebody else going through the same breakup, the same situation. You have the complete same stories. And you're stood there saying, I've been abandoned, I've been left, nobody chooses me, I'm really struggling to be by myself, this has ruined my life, I'm never going to get over this. And every single lonely moment you have, or every single sad thought, or every single moment you cry, confirms this narrative of that you are never going to be able to get over your ex. And then imagine somebody, you can imagine me, stood by your side, and I'm saying the exact same thing. I'm saying I've been left, I still cry, I got abandoned. I went through a really traumatic time, but I have survived every single day since. I have survived every single day. Even when I thought it was going to kill me, I survived every single day. I am learning, I am rebuilding. I haven't met the future version of myself yet, but I know she's there. And you go, how? And I go, well, I laughed whilst I was cooking dinner by myself the other day. I sat down and ate dinner by myself the other day. I was able to remove my ex off of Instagram. I was able to keep my cool and not reach out and ask for answers when I've heard another story about another girl. I went for a walk by myself. I was in complete peace when I was driving home. I was able to listen to an Adele song or an Olivia Rodriguez song without crying. And can you see that I am living the same reality as you? But I'm pulling in different evidence. I'm pulling in the evidence that makes me feel good. I'm pulling in the evidence that says you are going to get through this. Yes, you still think about your ex. Yes, you still wake up in the morning and you are sad. But your mindset is telling you this as well. The mindset you're in, you are constantly telling yourself this as well. You're constantly telling yourself that you are sad. You are constantly telling yourself that you are going through a breakup. You're constantly telling yourself that you are not going to get over this. And so you're stuck. And the person that you want to become, you have no evidence that you can become her. If you flip that narrative and you think, okay, yeah, I feel all of those things, but I can also do all the things that I reeled off. I can sit on a table by myself. I can go to lunch by myself. I can order a coffee on my own. I can drive somewhere. That was a big thing for me. I talk about it a lot on my Patreon. I didn't drive anywhere. I completely lost my confidence, really. I was a self-proclaimed passenger princess. And so that was a lot. When I became single, I realised that I was going to have to get my confidence back on the roads again and be able to drive anywhere again. It was hard. It was daunting. I knew that I could. And the person that I wanted to become was a confident driver. I drew in more evidence. I pulled in more evidence that was going to support the person that I wanted to become, not the person going through a breakup. I use this a lot to explain a lot. Is the rebuilding of a house concept. And I talk about it on my Patreon when you are going through the thick of your breakup, when you are in what I call the pits of hell. I use it a lot. It is a concept that really helped me. I'm very, very visual, and I also worked in construction, so it does make a lot of sense to me. But imagine that every single time you do something that contributes to the person that you want to become, you are building a house around that person, and each thing you do is a brick, and every single brick is going to build a house for that new person. It's not a brick that is for the person you are now. It is for the person that you are becoming. You have to think about yourself standing in front of you without a house around you, and you are trying to build that house. And each one of those bricks is every single time you choose yourself. And once you have one of those bricks, it doesn't mean you can't get that other brick again. And so you pick up a brick because you've chose yourself. You know, you didn't stalk their profile today, one brick. Next day, you didn't stalk their profile today, another brick. You chose yourself. That is a brick that you can build the new house around this to protect this new version of yourself. Every single boundary you create, every single boundary, every time you don't message them, every therapy session you turn up to, every time you say to yourself, I'm not going to message them, and you don't message them, every single podcast episode that you listen to instead of stalking their profile, every single time you control your emotions. You cry for 30 minutes. That's another thing that I talk about a lot. You cry for 30 minutes and then you try and continue your day. They're all bricks. And like I said at the beginning of this, you will not see a change happen overnight. A house is not built overnight. At all. Even the prefab ones, they do not go up overnight. This is what I meant by they're all tiny little things that contribute to the person that you are becoming. That brick system, that brick concept, every single time you say no to somebody, every single time you say no to your ex, every single time that you say no to a friend. Do you want to hear? Have you heard? No, I don't want to hear. Another brick. because the version of you that you are building in the future doesn't want to know what your ex is doing. And like I always say, people will give you unsolicited advice and tell you information you didn't even want to know. How do you think that I found out that my ex was engaged and having a baby? Because I just found out because people tell you. It's so weird. But every single time someone says, oh my God, have you heard? No. Because there is a future version of yourself, trust me, because I am her. Because whenever anybody actually mentions my ex, I'm like, can we not, guys? Like, I don't really want to talk about this. Every single time you create a boundary, you could have thousands of boundaries created, and that would give you thousands of bricks. This is what I mean. One brick doesn't build a house. Neither does two, but eventually you will be able to see that house being built, and you will have a shit ton of evidence, which is totally impossible to ignore. You will have a load of evidence, which is totally impossible to ignore, that you are becoming the person that you are so desperately wanting to become. And if you've followed me for a while and you've listened to my podcasts and you've spent time digesting my content, you know that I tell you that time is the biggest healer. When people say to me, how did you get over your ex? I tell them it took me a solid 2 years and then another 2 years of rebuilding. And people go, oh my God, I haven't got the time to do that. And you don't have to take that long. Everybody's different. You know, I've got a friend who doesn't actually really heal from anything. She just jumps from relationship to relationship. You know, you don't have to take that approach. I try and advise you from what I've been through, and what I went through was obviously a very long relationship with an engagement and a wedding that came to a brutal end. And that is just how long that I felt like I needed to be able to get my life back on track. But everybody's different. And I think if I went through a breakup now, probably no, I wouldn't take two to 4 years to be able to heal. I wish that someone had told me that, yes, time is a healer, but time will not heal your heart if you sit and do nothing in that time. Time simply gives you the opportunity to start making different choices, to start asking the questions, to start thinking about, how can I actually move forward from this? Time gives you time. Another statement where you think, what on earth? Like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Time gives you time. That's what time does. Time gives you the time to be able to sit down and think, I don't want to feel like this forever, so what changes am I going to make? You can either spend 2 to 4 years waiting, or you can spend two years healing, 2 years rebuilding. They are two very different ways to spend time. So when people say to me, oh my God, I can't feel like this for 2 years, trust me, you don't feel like this for 2 years. I think I felt awful for about 6 months. Like, awful. I think I felt genuinely like on the edge for about a year. Like, I didn't feel awful through the whole 4 years of healing. I haven't felt awful for the whole 4 years I've been single. I felt dreadful at the start, and I feel unreal now. I know people click off my stuff when I say it's taken me 2 years, because people don't want to invest that time in them. But I can tell you this now, these 4 years of my life, but actually no, the probably last 2 years of my life, the last 6 months of my life is going to drastically change my future. So much so, I'm actually working so hard at the moment to get out my own head and my own way. I have so much self-doubt because of the life that I have managed to create is actually going the way that I wanted it to go, and also is going the way that I always thought that I would only ever dream of living. So no, I haven't cried over my ex for 4 years, but I know people are still emotionally where they were 2 years ago. I know people who have transformed their lives in 12 months, not because that person's stronger, because they recognise these concepts, they recognise what they need to do, they honour their feelings, but they know they need to move forward, they think about everything they're telling themselves, they work on their mindset. I have always been a big advocate for mindset, even when my account on Instagram was just a running account. I banged on about mindset constantly. And this is where the biggest changes will happen for you. And I know that people think that these tiny changes do not have any impact at all, because they don't feel like big, powerful breakthroughs. Reading 10 pages of a self-help book doesn't feel like it's going to transform your life. Listening to an hours long episode on, say, I don't know, how to heal from your ex, going through no contact or whatever, doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. Going for a walk doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. Meditating once doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. Journaling once doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. Saying no once and creating a boundary doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. But tiny things compound. Tiny things. Doing tiny things like that, which aren't tiny things, but people think they are. Doing tiny things like that have a huge compound effect. But let me just flip that. Checking your ex's Instagram is a tiny act that has a huge emotional effect on you. Reading your messages from your ex has a huge emotional impact on you. And I would argue they were small things. You are literally just clicking a button. So when people come to me and say, oh, I meditated once and it's not had a massive effect on me. No, it hasn't. Because you have spent the last 6 months, instead of meditating, instead of journaling, instead of going for a walk, you have checked your ex's Instagram 3 times a day. You have contacted your ex. You have messaged your ex, and you read your text messages from your ex every single night. You have been doing tiny things that have created this big monster of emotion that now affects you massively. So instead of doing all of those things, if you started doing some healthy things that are going to contribute to the person that you are going to become, those tiny little actions, they will add up. They do have a compound effect. You will start noticing the days that you don't get out for your walks. You will start noticing how calm your mind feels when you start meditating. You will notice how the emotional shift, the huge emotional shift, you will go through when you start journaling. And everybody knows I'm such a big fat lover of journaling, but why not do those tiny things every day instead of doing the tiny things that you were doing that have now turned into this big fat monster that you can't see a way out of, that are affecting you so badly? Why not do the healthier things that are going to contribute to the future version of you? Why are you still doing the things that are hurting your feelings? What you need to remember here is tiny things compound. Are you doing the right tiny things? And I bet you're saying to me, no, Lou, I'm not. Help me. I know. That is why I put my heart and soul into doing things like this, because I have been you. I friggin' know. And I think as well, you get caught up in toxic transformation stories. Now, please don't come for me for this, because I love a transformation video. I love the crying video and then the happy video. Fine. I always put in my content that it took me 2 years to get to that point. I always talk about the length of time it took me to heal. Now, on Instagram and on TikTok, there are the crying videos and then the amazing card launch videos of a new man or a new girl. Sorry, speaking from a straight girl's perspective, I used to search and search and search and search and search. And I get questions all the time. Have you found the love of your life? Have you found your next partner? Have you done this? Have you done that? Guys, if I wanted to talk about that, I would. If I wanted to be that to be my story, I would have hard launched somebody and said, and do you know what? I think if I did, then my content would probably skyrocket, because everybody is looking for that fairy tale story. She came out of a relationship, but now she's found the love of her life. That was not what I wanted. My whole reason of doing content, I did not want that to be my whole concept. I wanted to prove to you that you could come out of a huge relationship and rebuild your life on your own, being single, being confident. I wanted that to be the narrative, because like I always say, and I bang on about it, when you have built a life that you love, attracting somebody into it is the easiest part. It is the easiest part of going through a breakup. Being able to sit on your own and do the healing and trust yourself and learn how to trust other people is the hardest part. And so, yes, I love a transformation video, but I think that sometimes you go scrolling and looking for them. And I know you do, because I did. And I used to read the captions on people's TikToks and think, okay, I've been through a 14-year relationship. How long were these people together for? And I used to look, and I used to like try and find evidence that I was also going to be able to one day hard launch somebody and be like, hey, I went through this, but you know what? I actually got this, and this was the outcome. That's not what I wanted my story to be about. I think real healing is quieter. I wanted to talk about those quieter moments. Real healing is when you realise that you've woken up and you've actually been able to breathe for one. I remember opening my bifold doors in my old house and actually enjoying the sunshine. And I remember sitting down on my dining room table for the first time because I wanted to have like a fajita dinner and put it all out like I used to when me and my ex were together. Those were the little moments where I thought, do you know what, I'm actually healing and I'm getting somewhere. Those were the quiet moments. Nobody wants to post that on social media because they don't think it's relevant, because everybody is looking for that fairy tale. This is the reason why this happened. The reason why this happened, you will never get a definitive reason as to why this happened, but you will realise that one of the main reasons why your breakup had to happen is because you were much more deserving of a life that you were going to live. You deserved much more than that. And these are the little moments, the moments where someone mentions their name and you don't collapse. Or somebody saying, like, for me, for example, someone saying, oh, have you heard that your ex is pregnant? Flippantly. I was like, no, I haven't actually, but thanks for telling me. Nothing. I went home, I carried on my life, I carried on my day because my life had moved forward, and all of the little tiny things that I did, all the mindset shifts that I had made, all the journaling that I had done, everything that I had learned boils down to those moments where you think, that would have absolutely crucified me 2 years ago. I'm just going to carry on my day. I'm just going to go shopping. And you heal in the quietest moments. So if you're sat searching for people that have gone through situations like you, and you are searching for their hard launch of their partner, you are searching for the wrong type of advice, because you are just going to focus on the fact that you feel like you can't heal unless you bring somebody new in, unless you rely on that person to distract you from the feelings that you don't want to feel. So I am hoping that you have realised that one of the biggest things you can do is changing the narrative, and the way that you change the narrative is by doing small, tiny actions. You need to start envisioning yourself building that house, and these actions being the bricks that go towards building this house. So you have probably spent the last few months telling yourself you're never going to get over this, you're never going to recover, you're never going to find somebody new, they were the only chance that you had at having a relationship, you've lost everything, they've gained everything. And I want you to ask yourself, how much evidence have you got that those things are permanently true? How much evidence have you got that you will never recover? Because I would argue that the fact that you're getting up every day is evidence that you are going to recover. It's going to be slow, but you're going to recover. How much evidence have you got that you are past it, or that like you are too old? If I have another person land in my inbox that is under 30 that is going through a breakup, and they tell me that they are too old and that they are past it, I'm going to explode. Like, even when people come to me when they're 40, I'm like, you are not too old to start again. How much evidence have you got of that? How much evidence have you got from your life, not from other people? So how much evidence have you got that you're too old to start again? How much evidence have you got? How much evidence have you got that you've lost everything? Because I will argue that if you looked around, you still have your family and your friends. So you haven't lost everything. Like, you are just telling yourself these things because of how much emotion that you are feeling right now. Because feeling something and the way that you're feeling isn't the same as proving it. A feeling is an evidence that something's definitely happening. A feeling is a feeling. A feeling is your emotion. An act is evidence. And that's why I keep telling you that these tiny little changes will have a huge compound effect. I'm sorry to say it, but you have been collecting evidence for hopelessness. Maybe it's your time now to start collecting evidence for positivity. Maybe it's your time to start collecting evidence that is going to push your life forward, transform your life, create the person that you want to become, create this confident single person. And it's not about creating false evidence and false positivity and pretending that you're okay. It's noticing the little things like, I got out of bed an hour earlier today. I made someone laugh. I smiled for 5 minutes. I survived another weekend on my own. These moments all count. You just don't record them because your emotion with your breakup is overtaking how you're feeling and has overtaken how you felt for a very long time. This is what I mean. It's not about blaming you. This episode was not about blaming you. It is pointing out things that get lost because of your emotions. So much stuff gets lost because you are emotive. I want you to imagine yourself a year from now, not 10 years, not 5 years, just a year from now, where you will not be the same person. Not because of one massive decision, not because you've made one huge massive decision and one massive thing happened to you, because 365 little tiny decisions that you made starting from today has completely changed your identity. Healing doesn't just arrive and land and smash you in the face. Peace just doesn't arrive and go, hey, knocking at your door, it's peace, it's time for you to feel peace. These things accumulate, these things take time, these things take action. And this is what I wanted this episode to be all about. I wanted you to know that if you don't change, change doesn't happen. And so I want you to be able to take away the brick theory. So I'm going to ask you this question. What is the one thing you can do today to contribute to the person that you want to become? What is the first brick you're going to lay on the ground to build that future version of yourself, the house? Not what are you going to completely transform. It doesn't work like that. If you've got to the end of the episode and you think it still does, then go back and listen to it from the start. What is the one thing that you are going to change today? Tomorrow you might wake up, you still might be upset, but you know that you have to do that one thing again, because all of those one things and all those bricks, there is a huge delivery of bricks that is waiting for you to just take one and lay it on the floor. If this episode has helped, please tell me in the comments. Please leave me a comment. Let me know. If you need me, guys, you know where to find me. You can sign up to my Patreon. We can have a chat. If you don't want to do any of those things, please do that one thing for me and go and subscribe to wherever you listen to me on. And I will see you in the next episode next week. Look after yourself, guys. Bye.